In my experience, largely, the biggest contributor that actually activates eczema is diet, right? So you can get mold exposure on the surface of your skin, and the mold can embed itself in your skin and kind of eat
Mhm.
away at the surface of your skin. And then that causes inflammation just perpetually, and it's very hard to deal with.
This episode of the Good Living Now podcast is sponsored by our friends at Kuvings. Now, I've tried many cold pressed juices over the years, but the Kuvings Auto10 has truly simplified my routine. Now, my personal experience is that it's simple to operate and quick to clean. Now, with the Auto10, I can make everything from nice cream to morning smoothies to sorbets, and I can even make plant-based milk. Now, if you'd like to give it a try, use my affiliate code JUICEGUY at checkout to save 10% on coolies. All right, go ahead, grab your fresh produce and get your juice on. Welcome to the Good Living Now podcast, where we talk to real people about real change leading to real health. I'm your host, Harold Leffall, and today we're having a conversation about something that affects so many people, and that's eczema. In fact, eczema affects 10% of the US population. Well, today we have our favorite plant-based nutritionist and fitness coach, Remson Noire, who's going to help us understand better what we can do to deal with this skin ailment. Welcome to the show, Remson Noire. Hey,
All right, what's going
Remson,
on?
how you doing?
All right, I'm doing pretty well.
I'm so glad to have you back. Look, I didn't realize that eczema was such a big issue. You know, when I started looking at some of the data and information, and to find that 10% of the US population suffers with some form of eczema, it had me thinking back to my own childhood. I didn't realize, I didn't know what to call it back then, but I used to get these rashes like in my arm that I just remember as a kid to scratch them till they used to bleed. Now I know that that was eczema. So we wanted to really kind of unpack what it is and what we can do to deal with it, or if people are suffering with it, what do they need to avoid? But first, let's just kind of open up with what is eczema?
Yeah, so eczema is largely a skin condition that is a result of our overactivation of the immune system, right? There's a lot of different variables that affect it, right? Lifestyle stress, environmental toxins, dietary toxins, poor food choices, climate, right? There could be way too much humidity, or the climate could just be way too dry, right? So it's a lot of different factors to
Hmm.
consider when it comes to that. But in my experience, largely, the biggest contributor that actually activates eczema is diet.
Mm. And eczema is something that affects everybody, kids, adults, elderly, like it can affect anybody at any age.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even me, I used to have issues with it as well. I didn't even know though, right? So I used to
Hmm.
get it like in my armpit, particularly, it's like in the back part of my armpit here. I would get it in the crease of my elbow.
Hmm.
That's usually mainly where I used to get it, right? And then maybe
Mm.
like a little bit on the side of my neck here and behind the knees.
Hmm.
Hmm.
And and with eczema, sometimes it can come and go. Like you can have it for a season, and then it can sometimes just clear up on its own.
Yeah, yeah. Mine's used to particularly get activated in the summertime
Hmm.
under conditions of extreme humidity.
Mm. And I have a friend of mine who suffers with eczema, like it's on her hand and on her legs, and it's like as well. It's actually gets in her hair too. Sometimes she has like flare up in her hair in her head,
Mm.
and they've put her on like steroids and stuff like that. And I think it helped kind of with the pain because hers would be like, I don't know if it was the pain from just like scratching and then the irritation, but the steroids didn't really help much. It helped a little bit, but didn't help much. When people are like dealing with those kind of flare ups, are there things like naturally they should consider or should be doing?
Yeah, in my experience, the best things that you can do is address it in a dietary way.
Mm,
As far as things that you put topically, that would be things that are like antifungal, antibacterial, like that kind of thing.
mhm,
Because when you're dealing with eczema, it's usually a result of you're having a weak skin barrier where it's easy to get infections,
mhm,
right? So especially if you're dealing, with an environment where you have high concentrations of mold, right? So you can get mold exposure on the surface of your skin, and the mold can embed itself in your skin and kind of eat
mhm,
away at the surface of your skin. And then that causes inflammation just perpetually. And it's very hard
mhm,
to deal with. Or bacterial infections, from sweating and things like that. And you just get bacteria that kind of just gets submerged into your skin. And then,
mhm,
of course, the scratching and things like that, you damage it even more, just makes the issue worse.
mhm,
So, in my experience, using things like, let's say, lavender oil in order to, mold, right? Mycotoxins. It's also antibacterial, right? So something like that could be very beneficial. But of course, mixing it with some type of carrier oil because it's really strong if you just put the essential oil directly on the surface of your skin, right?
mhm,
So something like that can be very beneficial. So my go-tos typically are things like lavender oil. You can also use tea tree. Right, so I think those are, like, my top 2, and then a third would probably be something like a eucalyptus oil.
mhm. And what kind of foods you think would trigger or exacerbate, things like eczema?
So, it depends on what your gut health is like.
Mhm,
A lot of people, it's actually triggered by dairy. A lot of people, it's triggered by wheat, right, or just dehydration in general, right?
mhm,
So, what I've come to find is it's a good idea to start with, like a food sensitivity test. Right? So you can see what type of food allergies or food sensitivities you may have so you can know what you're dealing with. Because you could be eating things that normally are health foods, but if you have a sensitivity to them, you could be having some type of inflammation or an inflammatory response to that food because you have some type of allergy to it, whether it be like a mild or a very high sensitivity to it. So it depends. So something like that would be a good first step, right, to
mhm.
kinda narrow down what foods are safe and what foods are not, right? So you can know what to strike from the list, if anything.
And is that something you have to go to the doctor to get a food sensitivity test, or is there other avenues to?
You Yeah, you can get it from a doctor. You can also order one online and do it yourself and then just mail it in,
Yeah,
right?
that's what I did.
Uh
I did one where you had to do a hair sample. You send in a hair sample, and
Mhm.
I was kinda surprised at some of the things that I had sensitivities to, and like you said, even, like, some of the healthy things that I was consuming, I had sensitivity to those things.
Mhm. Yeah. And you know what's interesting is as you improve your gut microbiome, your food sensitivities go away, right?
Mm.
So, you have to take more of a diversified approach when you're dealing with something like this, right?
Mhm.
Because ultimately, the number one solution to something like eczema is fixing your gut microbiome, right? Because it really, when you're dealing with chronic inflammation, right? The majority of your immune system, we're talking like 70 to 80% of your immune system is in your gut,
Mhm.
right? So your gut has to really control and regulate what makes it into your bloodstream and how much of it gets into your bloodstream and that type of thing. So your diet really should be oriented around that. Right? So having a diet that is dominant in raw foods. So we're talking about dark leafy green vegetables. We're talking about nuts and seeds like chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, pumpkin seed kernels, sunflower seed kernels, walnuts, cashews, things like that, assuming you don't have a nut allergy, right?
Mhm.
Avocado, and then your fruits, which are largely anti-inflammatory, right? So you've got papaya, pineapple, which are really good for your gut health. You've got mango, cantaloupe. All your yellow and orange foods are really good for your skin health, actually,
Mhm.
right? Kiwis, berries, right? Your fruits that are like a deep violet or red or green, which is really good for detoxification and blood oxygenation, which significantly help to reduce inflammation. right?
Mhm.
And then rich sources of vitamin C and vitamin K. So kiwis are at the top of the list when it comes to something like that,
Mhm.
because kiwis are a good source of vitamin E, vitamin C, and vitamin K, as well as
Mhm.
copper and things like that, right? So that's big on the list. Yeah, bananas, grapefruit, your tangerines, citrus fruits, papaya, mango, cantaloupe, these type of things, honeydew.
Mhm.
Watermelon's a big one. Cucumber is really good for your skin quality in particular, right?
Mm.
So, it could be putting cucumber in your salads, juicing cucumber. I mean, just however you can get it. Cucumber is a really big deal.
Mhm.
And
'Cause
getting more of a
I even see
chlorophyll-rich diet.
I even see people putting cucumber on their skin.
Mhm.
Why is that helpful? Or is it helpful? Like,
Yeah, it is. It is. It
mm,
is. Cucumber is very medicinal for your skin in particular, right? For
mhm,
skin issues. Yeah.
mhm,
It's used in a
mhm,
lot of skincare products. So, like, it's a lot of skincare products, you'll see things like cucumber, you'll see citrus, malic acid, and you'll see vitamin C. So
mhm,
apples, pears, citrus fruits, these things are phenomenal for your skin health.
mhm.
And, yeah, cucumber's definitely on the list there.
So really your skin is really a reflection of what's going on in the inside.
Mhm. Yeah, you gotta fix it from the inside out.
Yeah. And if someone like has just had a history of eczema and they're eating the standard American diet, like what types of things should they where should they start? Where should they start?
Oh, yeah, so that's a big one because the standard American diet will it's real risky, right?
Mm,
You know, cooking with oil, that's inflammatory. A lot of
mm,
animal products, with all the different environmental toxins, heavy metals, antibiotics, growth hormone, that type of stuff. You can have adverse reactions to that. Hormonal disruptions, excess levels of saturated fat, which create insulin resistance and reduce like mitochondrial function, which can help like, it can increase inflammation and cause more of a cascading damage and destruction to your cells. Even things like grilling, baking and things like this, they produce toxins, right? Called ages, interestingly enough, right? And it's basically these free radicals, right? They're often referred to as where they basically destroy the cells in your body by robbing the cells of your body of their electrons. So this shows up in your skin. It ages you, right? High
mm,
protein diets, right? That can also like you have an excess amount of protein in your diet, right? We're talking about like 25 to 30% or whatever your diet coming from protein. That can also age your skin as well. And then of course,
mhm,
you have a lot of dietary fat and protein in your diet. Diet is a zero sum game. So when you have a lot of fat and protein in your diet and you're doing your best to cut your carbs and all of this type of stuff and avoid sugar, so you're not eating fruit, this could be a very dehydrating diet.
mm,
Electrolyte deficiency, right? Also, that's another thing. So you have a lack of magnesium and potassium in your diet, and that can dry you out and it makes things worse on your skin as well. And it can make things worse on your kidneys, right? So a lot of times when people have skin conditions, it's an issue in the liver and the kidneys. So
mm,
liver disease and kidney disease, they show up on your skin.
mhm. So yeah, so it really all starts on the inside. And so
Mhm.
folks who are dealing with, eczema or any kind of skin problems really should be looking at their diet. Really should be looking
That's
at
the
their
way out.
diet first. And I know for a lot of times though, the idea of making a shift in a person's diet seems like a long haul. Like, okay, I want my skin to look better, but then you want me to give up all of these things I'm used to eating. And I think a lot of people think, okay, but how do I start? Do I just start changing what I eat for breakfast, or do I just stop with one food product? Stop eating meat and then cheese? Or is kind of what would you suggest kind of as a guide to help people kind of get this
Yeah,
skin?
so definitely the food sensitivity testing, that would be number 1.
Mhm,
Number 2, what I like to do is the process of elimination via addition.
Mm.
So really not focus on eliminating things in your diet, but just prioritizing things or adding things in, right? So let's say breakfast was we're in watermelon season, right? So
Mhm.
breakfast was anywhere from 2 to 3 pounds of watermelon, right? Your second meal after that was like a coconut yogurt smoothie bowl, right? And the coconut yogurt is good for like your gut health, right? Because of the probiotics and this type of thing, right? So it could be
Mhm.
coconut yogurt, a variety of berries. You can do chia or flax seeds, things like that in there. You can put mango in it, kiwis, right? Things like this in the smoothie bowl. A third meal could be like another fruit bowl where maybe you're doing like a mix of like grapes, grapefruit, tangerines, this type of thing. Or you're doing a salad with, let's say, diced apples, pears, leafy green vegetables, cucumbers, hemp seeds, and let's say pumpkin seed kernels.
Mhm.
And you can use whatever kind of dressing you want, right? Ideally, you'd want to make your dressing yourself, right? But
Mhm.
yeah, so I'm pretty liberal on that.
Mhm.
And then, your fourth meal would be more of like where you get more of your savory cooked stuff from. Right? This could be sweet potato, like you could do baked sweet potato. You could do, let's say, kale or spinach, chickpeas or black beans with avocado or things like this. Foods like that. So like there's not that many animal products for human beings to eat. Most human food is plant-based. I
Mhm.
mean, even like the stuff that you use to make your food taste good is plant-based. Your herbs and spices, things like this, right?
Right.
But if you're dealing with a health condition, well, now you have to choose, right? Whatever is the food you're eating harming you or helping you? Is it helping you heal or is it driving you deeper into the inflammation?
Mhm.
And diet is zero sum like that. Right? So when you're dealing with something like eczema, a lot of the time you're eating foods that are inflammatory, right? So I mean, look, I advocate for a plant-based diet largely because it's the thing I've had the best benefits with, the best
Mhm.
results with dealing with these kinds of issues. But people want to
Mhm.
do and eat whatever they want to eat, so it's like if you want to risk it, that's fine. But ultimately, reality sets in, right, and we eventually capitulate.
Right, right. But I like what you said about what you can add in as opposed to thinking it from a standpoint of taking away. Because what
Mhm,
I think what people find out once they started adding in healthy things like more
mhm,
fruits and vegetables, it becomes easier, I think, to begin to change your diet to start eliminating things that don't make you feel good. And I think you start noticing that you feel not only do you look better, you start to feel better once you start incorporating those healthy things like you mentioned.
mhm. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, look, when you're dealing with a chronic illness, you got to really lean into it and take it head on, right? It's not really a thing that you fix passively, where
Mm-hmm.
you could just be kind of loose or take unnecessary gambles and that type of thing, because you just make it last longer. And the longer you have like a chronic health condition, the worse it gets.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't just it evolves. They all do. They
Mm-hmm.
progressively get worse.
Mm.
So that's what I'm saying. Like if you have a chronic health issue, basically your diet should be largely medicinal in nature. We know eggs, butters, chicken, shrimp. You can eat them, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not health foods.
Mm.
So, you don't have to cut out seafood from your diet. You don't have to cut out meat from your diet. You don't have to,
Mm-hmm.
right? But if you're not recovering, if you're not healing, well, perhaps you got to step things up, right? But if you
Mm-hmm.
add more of the more beneficial things to your diet, you become more comfortable with eating less of the other things you were eating previously, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean by the process of elimination via addition.
Mm. What do you wish more people knew about skin health?
Yeah, there's not really a cream or a
Mm.
thing that you put on your skin that's going to improve it, right? It pretty much works on the inside. So it's a lifestyle thing, it's an environmental thing. And when I say environmental thing, yeah, that's outside, but also the environment inside. Your
Mhm.
stress shows up on your face, your eating habits show up on your face. What you drink shows up on your face. What time you go to bed shows up on your face. Right? All these things show up on your face.
Right.
as well as the rest of your body or your skin in general,
Mhm.
right? But yeah, your skin is because the skin is also it's a detoxifying organ. So when your body wants to push waste products or toxins out, if it can't do it through your kidneys, if it can't do it through your colon, it'll do it through your skin.
Mm.
And look, waste is painful coming out and it leaves a
Mm.
trail. Yeah, right.
Mm, mm.
And your body prefers not to push waste out of your body through your skin. It would rather do it through your kidneys. It would rather do it through your fecal matter. But if that's not really an option, well, then your body will use your skin. And that's where the issues start showing up, the hyperpigmentation, the acne, the dryness, and all of this type of stuff. Right.
Mm.
Now, there's other things as far as that are aside from diet. Like how often do you clean your sheets? Change your pillowcase, right? Because your
Mhm.
bacteria is everywhere. And so if
Yeah.
you're sleeping in harmful bacteria, on your face all night,
Mhm.
there's some damage that'll show up from that, right? What are you washing your clothes with? All types of dyes and colors and artificial chemicals and things like this that do damage to your skin as well. So you're
Mhm.
wearing clothes all day and your clothes are you know filled with ink and all types of chemicals and things that seeps out of your clothes and into your skin, right? Your skin absorbs a lot of what you come into contact with. So that's another thing to consider,
Mhm.
right? So when you go shop for clothes, when you get laundry detergent, you may want to make your own laundry detergent, right?
Mhm.
So that's another thing to consider as well. And then look, mold in your house,
Mhm.
because you could have like a high raw diet and be plant-based and all of this and still have these issues.
Right.
It may be mold in your house, right? So you may want to check in your bathroom, check the corners, right? Check in your kitchen, right? Check in your basement, your attic,
Mhm.
right? Check around the windowsills where moisture builds up and this type of thing. If you have house plants, check the soil because you can have like a white coating over the soil or on the leaves of the plants. That's mold,
Mhm.
right? Check your HVAC system, change your filters. Right? So there may have to be some cleanup and some treating that's done for your environment.
Mhm.
Your fridge, how often do you clean out your fridge? You may have to take everything out of your fridge and check to see if you got mold buildup in your fridge,
Mm.
right?
And so you really have to become your own investigator, really, you know,
Yeah,
to,
yeah,
to,
yeah.
to figure to figure it out, to pinpoint, what's causing these issues, so that you're able to really address it and not just kind of using something temporarily like steroids to mask the symptoms, but you really want to find out what is really going on, what is causing this to happen.
Right, right. Speaking of steroids,
Mhm.
nature's natural steroid, sunlight, right? Vitamin D.
Mm.
So our body produces things like vitamin D, things like glutathione, right? An antioxidant that your body naturally produces on its own.
Mhm.
Vitamin D is not really so much of an hormone as it is a it's not really a vitamin per se. It's more of a steroidal hormone, right?
Mm.
Sun exposure, getting more direct sun exposure, 45 minutes to an hour a day, something like this, can also really significantly help to improve your skin,
Mm.
right? So that's important. Melanin is a protective mechanism, right? So your body will increase pigmentation as a protective mechanism, right?
Mhm.
So actually, getting a tan, getting more sun exposure, that strengthens your skin by deploying the melanin, right? Deepening the pigmentation.
Mhm. Well, speaking of the sun and skin, should we be wearing, especially melanated people, should we be wearing sunscreen?
I don't know. I don't know.
Mhm.
I would go more of a natural route. So
Mhm.
like I know, there's things like castor oil, shea butter,
Mhm.
there's things like grapeseed oil, right? Things like this. So there's
Mhm.
more natural ways. of moisturizing your skin and protecting your skin, right? But the whole sunblock, I mean, you put on sunblock, you're blocking the UV rays that are beneficial to your skin,
Mm.
right? Plus, like, with the sunblock, they come with different chemicals and things like that, environmental toxins and things like. So you got to be careful about things like that. So I'm not too comfortable with with
Mhm.
that type of thing. No.
Right, right. So, Remson, if folks want to get in contact with you, how can they reach you?
Yeah, so basically you can head to tribenoir.tv or tribenoir.com and book a call with me or become a tribe member, right? So if you need personal coaching support, I do weekly coaching calls, one-on-one as well as weekly group calls, right? In the form of live streams, personal custom diet plan, training plan, live stream replays, all types of stuff, right? So if that's something that you need, definitely it's on the site.
All right. So, if you want to get your skin right or your health right, Remson Noir. He's our favorite plant-based nutritionist over here. But Remson, thank you so much. Thank you for just shedding some light on something that affects so many people and letting us know that it all starts in the inside and that there's something we can do, to address things like eczema. Like we don't have to suffer. We don't have to suffer. So
Oh
thank you
yeah,
so
absolutely.
much. Thank you so
Yes,
much.
sir. Appreciate you.